Bud Clark tells me new safeties coach Tre Watson, the first thing he said to him when he met Bud Clark was TCU is going to lead the nation in interceptions this upcoming season.
You are Locked On Horned Frogs, your daily podcast on the TCU Horned Frogs. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
That's right, Locked On Horned Frogs, your team every day. I'm your host, Steven Simcox. I've been covering TCU athletics for the past 12 years. We'll talk to you about Gametime later. Show brought to you in part by Gametime today. Appreciate them. If you need last-second tickets, last-minute tickets, check out the Gametime app today. We'll also break down Major League Baseball draft just as it relates to TCU. We'll talk about players that are on the roster currently that got drafted, what their decision could be, will be, how it impacts the roster for next season. But this will be our final day of media day recap, sounds, those types of things. If you've been listening Thursday and then on Monday, we've been running interviews. I talked to Sonny Dykes, asked him a question at Big 12 Media Days. Also got some one-on-one player interviews. We heard from Colton Deary, heard from Devin Deal. Yesterday, also heard from Eric McAllister. And today, we're talking about the TCU defense and Bud Clark. And specifically, we are breaking down a team that is hoping to be more opportunistic on defense this year and force turnovers. Last season, TCU intercepted the ball 10 times. Now, that was a slight improvement from 2023 where they had 8 interceptions. I'll get into these numbers a little bit more after we hear Bud's conversation. But the first thing that stands out when you talk to Bud Clark, he's just a fun guy. Like, you totally understand. You get that feel from the way that he plays and just seeing him on the sideline, seeing him on the field. But you never really know. I mean, we're not in the locker room behind the curtain, those types of things. Meeting him, it's like, okay, instantly you totally understand why, okay, everybody loves this dude. He's fun to be around. And you definitely get that vibe when you have a conversation with him. So this is Bud Clark at Big 12 Media Days, coming back for year 5 of his TCU career.
With Bud Clark at Big 12 Media Days. Is this year 6 for you, Bud, or year 5? So year 5, but 6 seasons. Okay. 6 seasons, yes. All right. And you got a new position coach this year. Tre Watson, what's he been like getting to know him? Absolutely energetic. He's a great man on and off the field. Like, he checks on me all the time. Like, he makes sure my technique's great, but he also makes sure I'm being a great dad, too. That's awesome. For sure. What was it like? I know Coach Dykes at the press conference, he felt like you were NFL ready, like right now. You mentioned being a father, too. What was the decision process like between taking that leap to the pros and then coming back for one more year? What made you stay at TCU? Pretty much just growing my knowledge in the game of football. Of course, I love the sport, but I've never really been in tune with it, you know? Because I was always a baseball man myself. Oh, okay. So, like, being able to just having the knowledge of it, just knowing, like, small things, like the back away if I'm in a game or something like that, it's small things to me, like small details. Tre Watson did a really good job at Cal of producing guys that had interceptions. I know you're a ball hawk, Bud. Like, you like to make plays on the ball. Is that a good fit for you with him being there? Man, it's absolutely a great fit. First thing he said is one thing we're going to do is lead the nation in picks. Right. And that's what we're going to do. We're standing on it for sure. How many kids do you have, Bud? Only got one son right now. How old is he? He's 2. Okay. Has he started playing any sport? I mean, I know he's really young, but has he started running with you or playing any sports? Yeah, I got him in a good T-step. We got a good T-step. I got him on the cones and everything at home. Like, he's pretty smooth. Yeah. What got you? You said baseball. What got you into playing baseball originally? I played baseball. Like, I've been playing baseball, football, and basketball since I was like 5. So I grew up with it, you know. So, but being able to, I had to choose football pretty much because my baseball coach in high school tried to make me choose, and I chose football, of course. These young safeties you have here, what do you like about those? Just the guys in the room and some of the players that are making their first appearance at TCU. They're gritty to learn. Like, they're very absolutely open to learn. They're very like sponges, you know. So they're gritty. You feel me? So I like to be around those boys, like, because it reminded me of myself when I was younger. You know, like, of course I ain't too much older, but I also remember those years when I was just like, oh, like, man, it's here. I'm ready for it. You feel me? So it's pretty good. What was the turnaround like after that Houston game? You guys had a bye week and then really closed the season strong. Was it just kind of a mentality difference? Was it just cleaning up mistakes? How did you guys turn the season around so well last year? We had a meeting. Just player-led meeting. All the leadership, me, Deary, like pretty much everybody you see here, we had a meeting with our team. And we were like, man, we need the kids together now. We let the season fall apart. And I feel like everybody understood the message, so we got it together. Awesome.
That's Bud Clark at Big 12 Media Days. And I wanted to focus in on the turnover situation. Tre Watson told him, we're going to lead the nation in interceptions. Now, listen, you can just take that as, okay, new coach trying to fire up his players. But I will say, Tre Watson has a reputation of being a guy who is able to get his safeties, his DBs, making plays on the ball. At Cal last year, I just told you, in 2024, TCU had 10 interceptions. Last season at Cal, they had 17 interceptions. And Noel Williams led the team with 7. So, I mean, we're talking about a guy that's making things happen. Bud Clark led the team last year, and he had 3 interceptions. In 2023, as a team, they had 12 interceptions. So, not as much as last year, but still higher than what TCU was doing. I looked back at 2022, which was TCU's college football playoff year. It is worth noting they played more games, and a few of those totals got ratcheted up in that Michigan game because they made a lot of turnovers happen. But they had 16 interceptions in that season. In between, in 2023, when the defense really struggled, they only had 8. I went all the way back to 2014, and they had 26 in 2014, which is crazy to think about. But I think a big part of that was that team was playing ahead a lot. And so when you're behind, we talked about this with Josh Hoover last season. And Sonny actually mentioned it at Media Days as well. But when you're playing from behind, there's this pressure to go make plays. And we would see Josh make some ill-advised throws because, one, I mean, he's just a confident guy. He wants to make things happen. But also because the defense was having their struggles, because they couldn't run the ball really well. I believe there was a pressure on his shoulders of, man, every time we get the football, we need to go score. I need to go make plays. And that led to some risky decisions and some bad decisions, turning the ball over. They cleaned that up in the second half of the year, and it helped get some more wins. Bud Clark, though, is a ball hawk of a player. And I've heard in the past for DBs, making plays on the ball, forcing turnovers, getting interceptions, it's sort of something you either have or you don't. It's difficult to train that. But even if it was just a slight improvement, with Tre Watson being on staff and putting a new emphasis on taking that extra step to not only knock the ball down, but step in front of it and pick the ball off, that could pay huge dividends for this TCU team. I'll also say, if this pass rush is improved like we expect and we hope for, that's also going to help a ton. If you're able to put pressure on the quarterback, you force tough throws. You force bad decisions. Also, if you're the team that jumps out to good starts, and I don't know totally why this is, it does feel like in general, in the Sonny Dykes era at TCU, it's just been a team that struggled to get going at the beginning of the game. I mean, even going back to that first season when they were so good, there were multiple ball games that year where first quarter or maybe a second quarter lull, but that first half, it was almost like they were kind of feeling the other team out. There were some mistakes, just sloppy plays. Now, to their credit, they found a way to overcome a lot of that. But still, there were multiple instances where they put themselves behind the 8 ball early in ball games and had to really work to fight back. This team, if they can get off to better starts and put opposing offenses in situations where they have more pressure on themselves to make big plays, to take risk, to make risky decisions in the passing game, then that can feed into Bud Clark, Ryan Yates, some of these other players stepping up and making plays. The defense needs to take a step forward in one way or another. You would love for it to be both. But either you have to be more consistent getting stops, and part of that falls on the offense too, being a unit that plays complementary football, or being more opportunistic, forcing more turnovers, and putting Josh Hoover and company in better situations from a field position standpoint. A couple of other things that were just good to hear from him. I didn't really know he had a baseball background, but that's was fun to see. And eventually chose football, made the right decision. Sonny talked about during one of his media availabilities there that he thought Bud was NFL ready after last season. But Bud Clark came to his office and basically said, "Hey, I'd be interested in coming back, but I'm going to need some compensation to make that happen, an increase in compensation." And Sonny said, "Hey, get your people, get my people, figure it out," and they did. He also discussed how playing safety in modern defenses now, for years, the leader of the defense, and I think it's still the case to a certain extent, was your Mike linebacker, your real linebacker. That was the player that had the communication in their headset in the NFL. It was calling the signals out in college football, is directing traffic pre-snap. A lot of that falls on safeties now because they have a better view of everything. And there's such an emphasis on the passing game and aligning yourself based on how teams line up their wide receivers that it's a huge part of getting lined up pre-snap. So Bud's a leader. He's playing year 5, as he said, year 6 coming back. He understands what it's going to take. He's had plenty of snaps. And Tre Watson, if he can help him, take another step forward and making big plays, then that could be super beneficial for this defense. Also encouraging to hear that, they had a players-only meeting after that Houston game, and they figured it out. They said, "Hey, we gotta get this done. We're running out of time. We're running out of opportunities." They figured out a way to be successful and a way to move forward as a team after a rough start to the season. When we come back, who got drafted in the MLB draft that plays at TCU? What does it mean for the roster next season? We'll talk about that next year on Locked On Horned Frogs. It's your team every day. If you need tickets to a Rangers game, an Astros game, comedy show, theater production, whatever it is, check out the Gametime app today. Download the Gametime app. You can use the code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. I tell you about them all the time, but it's super easy to use. It's incredibly convenient. I've shared the story before. My dad, for Christmas, he bought me tickets to a TCU Baylor basketball game. It was very nice. It was very thoughtful. Unfortunately, he used another ticketing company, and they canceled his order. Didn't really give him a reason why. So I had to work with them on, okay, how do you get a refund? And I said, listen, I'll get tickets on the Gametime app. You can just reimburse me. We'll do it that way. I had tickets within a minute. I found good seats, had them on my phone, 30 seconds. There's no hidden fees. They show you a picture of what you're going to look at from your seat when you sit down. Download the Gametime app today. Last minute deals. It's perfect for that. Gametime. Code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Give it a try today. So the Major League Baseball draft has been going on since Sunday. And one unique thing about college baseball, you can get drafted out of high school and you can choose to sign and get your signing bonus and go ahead and go straight to the minor leagues. In that case, you obviously don't end up on campus playing college baseball. If you decide to take your name out or not sign if you get drafted, then you go play in college baseball at least for 2 seasons, depending on your age. In most cases, you play there 3 seasons. So TCU got some really good news last week. A pair of signees withdrew their name from the MLB draft. Shortstop Lucas Franco and catcher Brady Dalmore, who were considered top high school prospects. This is from a story written by Jamie Plunkett on Horned Frog Blitz. Franco, TCU's top-rated recruit, was a number 53 overall prospect in the MLB draft, according to Baseball America. He took his name out. So we're talking about a guy that was probably going to be drafted round 2, round 3. If a team in round 1 just liked him and said, you know what, we're going to reach a little bit, he could possibly go there as well. Perfect Game is one of the recruiting services, really one of the only ones when it comes to high school baseball. A 10 is the highest ranking they give a prospect. Lucas Franco was a 10. So depending on what Anthony Silva does, and I'll get to his situation in a minute, you can see Franco at shortstop. You can see Franco at third base. But pairing him with Sawyer Stroh-Snyder and Noah Franco, no relation to my knowledge, as young dudes who are going to be playing every day is a really good sign for TCU. And whether Lucas ends up at third base or at short, he'll be there for the foreseeable future after withdrawing his name from the draft. And then Brady Dalmore, the catcher, he was ranked as a top 200 prospect, according to Baseball America. He's a guy of the West Coast in California, had a really good senior season, as you would expect. So 2 big-time players that should be able to come in and compete for playing time right away. Didn't have to worry about them in the MLB draft this week. Draft recap so far. So Ben Abelt gets drafted in the 5th round by the Texas Rangers. Go Rangers, by the way. Anthony Silva in the 14th round by the Cleveland Guardians. Cademan Parker in the 15th round by the Chicago White Sox. Braden Sloan goes in the 17th round to Baltimore. And Dallas Macias, who's a transfer from Oregon State, got drafted in the 15th round by Atlanta. So let's go person by person here. Ben Abelt. Kirk Sarloos actually did like a question and answer thing on Twitter recently, and somebody asked him about Ben, and he was pretty matter of fact in saying, I think Ben's moving on. He's not going to be here next season. I would love to see Ben Abelt come back. Last year they were working on getting him to a place where he could be a starter last season, and then he had the injury before the season started, ends up having elbow surgery and is out for the year. But if he was available, I think he'd be the perfect complement to Tommy Laporte in this rotation. And there could be some really high expectations for this team going into next season. I would imagine, though, 5th round pick coming off a major injury, it's going to be tough to turn down that type of money and that type of opportunity in the pros. My assumption is that Ben Abelt is gone. I don't think there's a reason for him to come back. And could you make your stock higher? Sure. But you also have the risk of, if you're not completely ready when the season starts, you miss some time to injury, or if you just struggle a little bit coming back from being out for a year and having some rust, does that drop your stock some and cost you some money? My guess is Ben Abelt's going to sign with the Texas Rangers, and hopefully we'll see him come out of the bullpen with that funky arm slot soon enough in the major leagues. No inside information. That's just my educated guess. Anthony Silva, it's fascinating. I mean, not too long ago, after his freshman season, there was a lot of first-round hype. Now, whether or not that was warranted, it was a fact. Like, people were talking about him being a potential first-round pick. He's incredible with his glove. I mean, a great defensive shortstop. At the plate, it's been a rough couple of years. There were times where it looked like maybe he was going to snap out of it, but it never fully materialized. I think it's 50-50. I could see him coming back and saying, you know what, I want to continue to work on my swing, work with Bill Mosiello, get more confident at the plate. But again, you have to wonder, like, is this going to be my highest stock? Like, am I in a place right now where I should just say, okay, they're giving me this chance as a 14th rounder. I want to see it through. I would lean towards him coming back right now, just because I think he has the opportunity to get in a better place with scouts, but we'll have to see what happens. If he did, it'd be fantastic for TCU baseball. He could just slide right there as you're starting shortstop again, excuse me. Cademan Parker in the 15th round by Chicago. He turned down an 11th round selection last offseason by the Milwaukee Brewers. Cademan had a tough year. He dealt with some injuries. He wasn't super consistent, ended up with an ERA over 5. I think he's going to make the jump. I just feel like you had a tough season. People still value your services. They're giving you another chance here. I don't know if he'll take the risk of coming back for one more season and having to pitch again and, possibly sliding down draft boards more if you can't get a good feel for your arm and where you're going to be. Braden Sloan, there's not a decision there. Cademan has 1 more year of eligibility. Sloan doesn't. And then Dallas Macias, I don't really know. I know he had a great year at Oregon State his freshman year. He struggled last season, and TCU's kind of taking a chance on him and saying, hey, maybe we can get some of that magic back. with that in mind, I would think he comes back for another year of college baseball, but sort of remains to be seen moving forward. When we come back, we'll get some of your thoughts. We'll also wrap things up. It's Locked On Horned Frogs, your team. We do it here every day. Just a few things before we go. One more story or just a couple more notes from Big 12 Media Days. I got to talk to Namdi Obiizor, and he's excited for this season. He really likes what Caleb Alarmzor brings to this defense. He also mentioned that Max Carroll is a good player. You know, Max is going to bring some depth to that linebacker room. And I really like what he's done on special teams over the last few years. I think there's potential for him to be someone who makes plays. And it was in limited action. So I think sometimes like we see a guy come in because of an injury or because of a situation and they play well in the moment. And you're like, okay, this is your new dude. But in that Kansas game, he got some snaps. And I know like he was probably fresh, like had a lot of energy. Opposing teams didn't necessarily know a ton about him, but he just really brings that physicality to the field when he gets out there and plays. And then Michael Thiessen, the transfer from Missouri State, who had a really good career at the FCS level, he'll also be an option. The depth in that linebacker room is sort of troublesome. And you got some young guys, Sam Haley in particular, who had a great career, high school career in Tennessee, who will be, available to step in and make plays if needed. But you're going to be counting a lot on your veterans in that linebacker room. Namdi, Caleb, those guys to step up and make things happen because you need them to play a lot of snaps this upcoming season and be consistent to just get the job done on a week-to-week basis. MLB draft, watch out for that. Watch out for those decisions that'll be upcoming soon enough. I would love to see Ben Abelt back. I don't personally see it in the cards. I think he's going to make that move and try to jump to Major League Baseball. And I'm intrigued to see like what role he'll be in. I mean, as he's been a reliever pretty much his entire college career, as I said in the last segment, like when TCU was working on getting him to a place where he could be a starter again, he has the injury and suddenly things don't work out. But man, it would be very tempting tempting is not the right word. I guess exciting as fans to see a 1-2 punch in the rotation of Tommy Lepore and then Ben Abelt, whatever combination that was, whether it was Ben on Friday, Tommy on Saturday, or Tommy on Friday, Ben on Saturday. That's a great 1-2 punch. And Cademan Parker's decision will tell you a lot about this rotation too. Trevor Baumler, I mentioned yesterday, is having a really good season in the Cape Cod League. He's a Cape Cod All-Star, which is a good sign. I think he's going to be a starter for one of those Cape Cod All-Star teams. And he's got like a .92 ERA. But you're going to have to figure out his role. Like, is he a starter? Is he going to be more of a middle relief guy next season? Because you also need somebody to step in and fill that Braden Sloan role of just being a dude that can eat innings. Like, what if your starter gets blown up and you have to make a move in the third inning, or if their pitch count goes up, or if you're just going into the fifth and it's a tight ball game and you want to turn it over to somebody who can at least get you to the seventh or eighth before finding something in the back end of that bullpen. And that's going to be a big question for this TCU baseball team too next season. You didn't really have a designated closer last year. There weren't defined roles. They sort of hodgepodge the bullpen together and made it work, but there wasn't really a time last year where you were like, okay, if Braden Sloan's not available, when we get to the eighth or ninth inning, we feel good about, throwing this guy out there and allowing them to make things happen. But yeah, the starting rotation is going to be a question mark because Cole Klecker and Cole struggled the last 2 years, but he's no longer there. He's moving on to Arizona State. And that was another dude that you could count on to give you innings from time to time. And you have to have a plethora of arms to get through the regular season. And then once you get into postseason play, we'll be back tomorrow. It's Locked On Horned Frogs, your team every day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcast. Please subscribe to the YouTube channel.